Whoops, wrong footage. Faith is a horror game developed by Airdorf Games and published by New Blood Interactive. You take up the role of John Ward, a priest haunted by the failure of his first exorcism. What starts as him wanting to make up for his past mistakes leads John down a path of darkness and misery that puts him face to face with the demons responsible. And with a little help from his friends, he conquers that evil and is able to move on with his life. It's an incredible game filled with great scares, engaging battles, and peak storytelling. And one of the few games I went out of my way to 100% on my stream. That is, except for one fucking achievement! Good Christian Boy is one of the hardest challenges I have faced in recent years, and it seemed so simple at first. Finish marathon mode, good endings only, without dying once. This means playing through the entire game in one sitting, achieving the good ending by fighting some of the game's hardest bosses, all while you're constantly on edge because your character dies in one hit. Despite how difficult the challenge turned out to be, I loved Faith so much that I had to give it a try. Faith is a decently linear game if you know what you're doing, and all attempts I'd seen took roughly 90 minutes to complete. I plugged over 17 hours into the game, memorized every detail and enemy pattern there was, utilized glitches frequently used by speedrunners, and failed. What hurt the most is that my best runs got me into the game's home stretch, and I was already conceptualizing a video highlighting the experience with my own tips and tricks for those interested in the challenge. I thought, I couldn't make a video on a challenge I didn't beat, right? Months later, I decided I could. I might not have the time and dexterity to become a good Christian boy, but I know there are people out there who do and love a good challenge. So I decided to make a guide on how to perform a good Christian boy run in Faith, holding all my tips and tricks to make any attempt at the achievement as fast and painless as possible. Think of me like Red Skull guiding you to a treasure I cannot possess. Can I make that comparison? Is it still cool to reference Infinity War? I don't plan to go in-depth on the game's story because you should only be attempting this challenge when you're well acquainted with the game. Plus, that ambiguity might get you interested to try the game out for yourself. Seriously, this game is incredible and a must-play for horror and thriller fans. Now, before we get started, I feel like I need to cover a famous glitch that'll make your life just a bit easier. Besides having 1 HP, John's biggest weakness is that he must stand still while using his cross. This is your only means of damaging enemies throughout the game, and when you're going for a perfect run, maneuverability is kind of a godsend. Pardon my pun. Is there a way to get around the cross's only caveat? There is, and it's called the auto-fire glitch. Here's how to do it. Press and hold space. Pause the game with escape while keeping space held. Unpause the game with escape. If done correctly, you should see John lower his cross and be able to move again. What the game isn't showing you is that John is actually still holding up the cross, allowing you to hit demons with the Almighty in all 4 directions as fast as you can move. You just need to keep space held, and you've got the power of God on your side. The glitch was discovered in 2019, and it was Airdorf himself who gave it its name. And since it hasn't been patched out yet, it's safe to assume that he likes it to some extent. The glitch isn't all-encompassing either. Sure, it could trivialize some of the encounters, but you still have to outmaneuver enemies, and certain events like cutscenes and phase changes in boss fights reset it without any indication that it's been turned off. Autofire is a great tool to have if you're aiming to be a good Christian boy, but if using glitches isn't your thing, I've got you covered. Most of the advice I've got for the run applies to both playstyles, and I'll be sure to specify if any differing strategies exist, along with any noteworthy places autofire resets. Now that that's out of the way, let's dive into the run. Chapter 1 starts with John going to the Martin household through the forest. You're given a rough map in the pause menu, but the Faith Wiki has the place fully mapped out. Use the landmarks spread throughout as your primary points of reference, as any screen without one is randomly generated. If you hit the edge of the map, you'll loop around to the other side depending on what direction you walked in. This can be confusing around the Martin household because you can only approach it from the bottom, but luckily you don't have to walk too far here. The shed holding the house key is 6 screens away from John's car. Either head up 1 screen from the well and then right, or cut a few corners to get to the puddle, then head straight up to get there fastest. Michael will occasionally spawn and run towards you, but you can easily flash the cross at him to make him go away. He's also scripted to jump you in the shed, but you deal with him in the same way. Autofire resets upon picking up the key. Go right up twice to avoid missing the house, and you can move on to Amy's ghost hunt. You don't have to go around the whole house looking for her. Just go between the bathroom and the top of the stairs to save time. If you don't want to play Spot the Diff with Amy, you can wait for her to spawn right on top of you and hit her with the cross to instantly scare her away. It's a small window, but if you get it down, it might save you some time. After 6 scares, head into the attic for the first boss fight.
My God, what happened to you? Do you think my face is pretty? I have to finish what I started. She's my priest.
Phase 1 of Amy's fight is as simple as it gets. Just stand strong and hit her with the cross. When the shadows come in to chase you, keep a healthy distance from them and hit Amy whenever you can. Phase 2 starts when Amy takes off the sheet, and she'll do her Spot the Diff attack just like before. After a few moments, Amy will charge in the direction of wherever she decided to show up. Knowing this, you can easily maneuver around her when she does this attack, and even get a few extra hits in when she stops moving. Autofire resets every time Amy spawns in here, so don't even bother. In Phase 3, Amy will trace over a newly formed pentagram in a series of dashes. When she reaches the end of her 3rd dash, she'll send out a spiral of runes that'll kill on contact. She'll start at the bottom left tip of the pentagram and work her way around counterclockwise. When she reaches the top left, she'll quickly trace the whole shape and then fire a shadow in your general direction. You can easily memorize Amy's pattern here. With some practice, you can find the best way to dodge each of her dashes and find the perfect spot to attack her while being safe from her runes. Should take you 1.5 cycles at most. You need to get the When Faith Endures ending for the achievement, so the only thing you need to do after defeating Amy is get back to the car. Grab the gun, head straight down, turn Michael into a highway pizza, and you're done. Just make sure to line up the barrel with Michael's body. You don't want to feel the grief of dying via a missed bullet.
Mortis.
Before starting Chapter 2, I want to clarify that you need to get the Go Forth with Faith ending to be a good Christian boy. This means you can't perform any sins in the chapter like fighting Pentarocks, Mirror Demon, or killing the couple on the overpass when transformed into a wretch. All these tasks put you in additional danger, so I don't know why you'd want to do them, but I felt I should clarify. After a linear Father Garcia segment, we're into Chapter 2 proper. There are 3 bosses in Gallup Cemetery: Mist Demon, Graveyard Maze Demon, and Umbilical Cord Demon. I suggest tackling them in the order you consider to be hardest to easiest. But this is a rare moment where order isn't too important, so do what you want. Mist Demon is as unpredictable as it is fast. At the start of the fight, it'll dive into the closest mist cloud and stay there until it reaches the wall of the arena. Once near the wall, it'll zoom to another mist cloud and repeat the process. Take heed that it can jump to clouds in the same row and skip rows altogether. Spatial awareness is everything in this fight. You need to keep your eyes glued on the demon at all times, while considering where it'll jump next. Attack when the demon just finishes moving and stop a few moments before it moves again. This should give you enough time to react to wherever it goes and allow you to dodge accordingly. The mobility autofire provides is amazing here, but you still need to be careful as this demon is as finicky as they get. Graveyard Maze Demon is pretty easy. They'll spawn at the center altar if you follow the path correctly. Immediately hold up the cross and you can deal some good damage to them before they reposition with a teleport. In some cases, they'll move to another position in your range and basically give you the win. But don't assume they'll play nice. Just keep your distance and don't get cornered. Umbilical Cord Demon has a funky pattern up their sleeve. Hold up the cross immediately after their cutscene to scare them away. They'll then jump to one side of the screen and start approaching you in a sine wave formation. Judge how far up and down the demon is moving and get past them when it's most safe, taking shots when able. When they reach the other side of the screen, they'll come back and chase you down just like the start of the fight. Move into the horizontal space if you can. The demon won't repeat its attack cycle until it takes enough damage in this state. The last thing you want to do is get yourself cornered. It's a pretty easy fight and practicing it will make the chapter's final boss a bit easier. However,
I'm an angel. Violator. That was easy.
Yep. Umbilical Cord Demon is vulnerable during and before their cutscene. Enable autofire and hug the right wall. The demon spawns when you cross a line depth just above the junction here, which gives you enough room to move in towards their spawn point and auto-fire them back to hell. After those 3, the next challenge you have to face is the Spindly Lady in the abandoned church. I'm not a fan of this part on Good Christian Boy runs because the Spindly Lady can sometimes take way too long to spawn given her mechanics. Pick your favorite room to fight her in, mine's the nave, and go between rooms until she's in the same room as you. Not too quickly though. Flash the cross when you see your screen start to distort. She'll then teleport around 3 times before flying straight at John. Simply step out of the way to avoid her. Just make sure you don't corner yourself against any pews or inside the aisles. Attack when she charges at you, or during her initial 3 teleports if she gets close enough. After the Rune Puzzle and Wretch segment, you're in the Candy Tunnel. This is a pretty linear segment, and next to a simple encounter with Peekaboo, you're not in any danger until you get to Basement Demon. You need to take this fight slow, as erratic movement can sometimes result in the demon telefragging you. Tackle this a bit like a game of Marco Polo. When you hear the demon say, freeze and rhythmically flash the cross around you until you start to hear it take damage. When it comes into your light, keep your distance and apply as much damage as you can. Be wary because it can teleport similarly to Graveyard Maze Demon, so if they're not in your light, return to searching. The demon will speak twice before it's your turn to look for it. Carefully walk around the room and locate them, quickly hitting them with the cross when they're in your sight. Using auto-fire here makes Basement Demon a breeze, though I still recommend standing your ground when it's moving, as no amount of auto-fire will save you from a telefrag. The blind ones in the Malphus house are easy to deal with. You can do this little maneuver to corral them in the bottom left corner, giving you ample time to exercise the bust. After you grab the key, move up slightly and you can just hold left to avoid them on your return journey. It's a fairly easy section compared to what comes next.
Don't be afraid, John. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, don't then. There will he be also. We can banish this demon together.
Sister Miriam's boss fight is hands down the most complex fight in all of Faith. With 3 phases, one having 6 attack patterns you need to memorize, it's one of the biggest hurdles you'll have to overcome to become a good Christian boy. But while it has a lot going for it, it's a relatively fair fight compared to some encounters in Chapter 3. So let's get into it. Phase 1 starts with Father Garcia reciting the 91st Psalm to Miriam, while numerous thralls rush at the priests from the side doors. You don't need to damage Miriam during this phase, just focus on protecting Father Garcia. If he dies at any point in this fight, you're not getting the good ending, and the run is over. Practically stand on top of Garcia and flash the cross in any direction a thrall comes at, adjusting position when necessary. Garcia will move twice during the fight, but that shouldn't affect your strategy. Autofire works great here because of how fast you can turn towards the thralls. Just make sure you're not out of range if they come in at a funky angle. Phase 2 starts when the lights go out. This phase is basically a repeat of Basement Demon's fight, albeit with a few adjustments. Stay in the middle of the room at all times, rotating in a steady rhythm to find Miriam in the darkness. Don't get distracted by the move where she dashes just out of reach. It's solely there to catch you off guard. When she's in your light, adjust your position so you can hit her with the cross for as long as possible, then return to the middle of the room and repeat the process. This is a rare moment in the game where I think autofire can be a hindrance to you. Miriam will run away once she gets hit, and while autofiring almost guarantees your safety, you won't get to deal much damage to her as she retreats, prolonging the fight in some cases. You can use this to your advantage if you find her at the last second and proceed to chase after her with autofire on, but you put yourself at some additional risk when you have to return to the center of the room. Use by preference. Phase 3 is where everything comes together. Here's her attack pattern. A larger version of Umbilical Cord Demon's Sinusoidal Wave attack. Amy Spot the Diff attack. A series of random dashes akin to Amy's Shadows. A slow approaching attack akin to Graveyard Maze Demons, teleports included. And a miniature version of Amy's Pentagram attack. When you've done enough damage to her, the screen will flash black and she'll perform her 6th attack, a dash towards Father Garcia, killing on contact, ending the run. You can easily counter this attack by flashing the cross at her, but forgetting about this will result in some of the worst losses you can imagine. As for the fight, dodge the other attacks just like you did with their respective bosses, and take any safe opportunity to damage Miriam while she does them. You can get loads of damage in during the pentagram attack given how little space she covers with it. There's even a freebie window right at the end. Autofire is highly effective here, but do be aware that every attack transition resets it. After disposing of her and waking up from the nightmare, we can move on to Chapter 3. Chapter 3 opens with the first of many flashbacks to John's first exorcism. These segments are linear, so whenever they come up, I'm just gonna list any time saves you can do to keep things simple. Flashback 1. There are no time saves. Since a good Christian boy only gets good endings, you've got to face the Unholy Trinity to get to the game's true final boss. Let's break the chapter down by days before the profane Sabbath to make things easier. The abortion clinic segment is pretty linear. Once inside, grab the crowbar and get dragged into the basement. Once strapped down to the gurney, move down 4 and right twice to be in the perfect hiding position for when Jeffrey enters the room. Head to the next screen and maneuver John to be alongside the bodies on the left. Jeffrey will come back and scope out the area before returning to the last room. You'll be safe as long as you're next to this body or further in. Once he's gone, move over to the right door and the cop from outside will come and untie you. Head upstairs and Jeffrey will appear one last time for a proper fight. You can't damage him, so you have to use the cross to slow him down so the cop can get a clean shot. Jeffrey will enter from any window in the clinic and will retreat to one upon taking damage. He only chases John, so lead him around the front desk and trap him there so your buddy cop can get some easy shots. Stick around the center of the room as much as you can. It's too risky to go into the wings. After 5 hits, step outside real quick and then head back into the basement. To get to the hidden boss, strap John to the gurney once more and move over to the door on the right and wait a little. Head on in, and you'll meet up with the mother and child. This fight pulls no punches. The mother will immediately start spawning babies from the vents that'll rush towards John. You'll need to move away and exorcise them as soon as possible, unless you want them to pile up and eat you alive.
So that was a fucking lie.
Yeah, the babies don't actually do much during this fight. Having them pile up on John only makes him move slower, which only becomes an issue in Phase 2. Hell, you can let the ankle biters spawn for minutes at a time and they'll still only be a minor inconvenience to you. To take out the real threat, stay in the middle of the room and hit the mother with the cross. After you deal enough damage, the babies will crawl over her and transform into a protective flesh suit. Mind the autofire reset. Babies will then spawn off her and travel to any corner of the room, and upon reaching one, start to grow into lanky monsters that are fast and deadly when fully grown. Goes without saying that you should not let this happen. Simply adjust your position to kill any stragglers, then return to the center so you're ready to attack the mother again when the suit has been disposed of. Even though the suit vanishes and she becomes vulnerable, she'll still spawn dangerous babies until she's killed. Stand proud, and you'll take her down in no time flat. 1 down, 2 to go. Flashback 2. You can stand next to the table on the right to immediately pick up the Bible when it spawns in. You can also save a little time by escorting the Martins just past the handrail in the kitchen, then going straight back into the basement. Let's quickly go through the sequence of events you need to do to get to the apartment's boss fights. Head right on floor 3 to get Lisa's room key from Tiffany's room. Head left on floor 5 to Lisa's room. Exercise the seal, and pick up the control room key in the bathroom. Go left on floor 2 and exercise the ritual dagger. And finally, go left on floor 10 to drop the cross into the laundry chute. The following segment with the camera is pretty straightforward and puts you in little danger. You have plenty of time to adjust during Peekaboo's chase, and the only things that can kill you before that are the cultists in the crawl space, which only do so if you approach them. After reuniting with the cross and exercising the mask, step back into the candle-filled room to fight Peekaboo. Get into the center of the room and watch the candles to see what direction Peekaboo is coming from, then flash accordingly. They might do some fake-out teleports, but you only have to hit them 5 times before they're done, so just stay on your toes. Autofire resets every time Peekaboo vanishes upon getting hit, so I recommend doing this fight organically due to its short length. After the Alu encounter at the top of the stairs, head back to Lisa's room on floor 5 and we can get to the first major hurdle of this section.
I got here as fast as I could. Let's go, Lisa. I'm not Lisa.
Lisa's boss fight is all about distance. Your true opponent is Alu, who will only come out after Lisa has taken a considerable amount of damage. Keep moving to keep her as far away from you as possible, while taking the appropriate opportunities to attack. One thing I like doing here is getting her stuck on one of the stick dolls in the room. This strategy lets you deal loads of damage to her while not having to worry about dodging. When Alu leaves Lisa, he'll dive into one of the dolls and start the next attack. Autofire resets here. Immediately start exercising the dolls while staying away from Lisa. Once you expose Alu, Hit him with all you've got until he dives back in to start the cycle again. Lisa can't harm you during this attack, but if you fail to find Alu, he'll possess John and try to get him to kill her instead. When possessed, mash in the opposite direction of her until Alu leaves. I've found that mashing both WASD and the arrow keys results in some slightly better controls, so try that if you're in a bad spot. If you touch Lisa while possessed, your run will end up like her, dead. Once you save Lisa and learn who runs the building, it's time to play the elevator game! Luckily, you don't have to put yourself at risk by fighting Elevator Friend if you've already seen the combination. It stays the same on all playthroughs. Go to the secret floor, take a right turn, and come face to face with the biggest challenge the run has to offer. So originally this part was going to have an anecdote about how a minor oversight with how the elevator menu functioned got me killed by Elevator Lady on one of my runs. But when I was getting footage to show off this oversight, I realized that it was patched out in the 1.3 update. Most I can say is that if Elevator Lady spawns when you reach floor 5 in the elevator game, turn right so she doesn't instantly kill you and continue the game as normal. Okay, back to Tiffany. I'm gonna be honest. A boss fight as unpredictable as Tiffany's is borderline unfair for a deathless challenge. Tiffany will immediately start to chase John, all while teleporting around him erratically like so many demons before her. After taking enough damage, she'll dash in a random direction and start bouncing around the room like the DVD logo. After that, she repeats the cycle and gets even faster. She means business. Tiffany's attack pattern is pure randomness, with no attack cues in sight. But that doesn't mean she's devoid of strategies. Here's something you might not believe me on. Tiffany's hitbox is significantly bigger than her hurtbox. You can safely touch her demonic head and arms without dying. Just be careful messing with the latter because her animation pushes her arms out, which can kill you. You need to constantly be on the move during this fight, while maintaining enough distance to react to the DVD attack. Once she starts the DVD attack, get away from her and follow her movements, predicting where she'll bounce next and adjusting your position accordingly. If you're lucky, you can deal enough damage to her while she's out of bounds and skip the attack in the funniest way possible. Autofire doesn't reset until you kill her, but even then it doesn't help too much given how random the fight is. If you're gonna practice any boss, have it be Tiffany. After 5 significant blows and 4 DVD attacks, you've bested her. Just don't forget to get her in the hallway, okay? Flashback 3. Just head straight up to the attic. No need to hear all of John's dialogue throughout the house. Things are pretty linear as you descend into Garyland. Your first threat is in the chair room with the right cultist, but you don't even have to fight him if you hug the bottom wall in the connecting hallway. Solve the chair puzzle and get a hit of the Kool-Aid, and you'll be taken to Flashback 4, where you just need to leave the house. You're next given another 3-way choice for gathering Moloch's sacrifices. My descending difficulty order is right, center, left, but you're far enough into this run that it really doesn't matter. What I do recommend doing first is fighting the Unholy Spirit. Spawn them in by walking past one of the portraits in these connecting hallways 3 times. You'll know it's spawned in when you hear the typical demonic noises. The Unholy Spirit will come at you from any edge of the screen and at any angle. All you've got to do is hold the cross in their general direction and dip into another screen when they get too close. Just take your time, and you'll do fine. Going right will bring you to a room with a single cultist, who you can easily ignore. The next room has the area's main challenge, a game of red light green light with a blind one. Your safe zone is at the bottom of the stairs, so if you mess up early on you can run back and try again. Take the game nice and slow, stopping at each sconce on the wall and just before the eye. Picking up the eye spawns Pentarocks, who'll start to chase you in an attempt to make you panic. But stay true to the red light green light mindset and this part's a piece of cake. What's not so easy is the next room, where 2 cultists block your only exit. You can fight them, sure, but I like to save a little time by going around them. Bait out the top cultist and hit them with the cross when they're about halfway through the room. This should prompt them to transform and extend their arms. If you head up to the wall while they're attacking, you'll have enough time to move to the next screen over. This can be a bit harrowing, but with a little practice it becomes second nature. The upper central room has a large mirror in a fight with the mirror demon. You can only see the demon in the mirror's reflection, and the vines that grow around it will slow John down the bigger they grow. Hug to the mirror and move to the right of the mask. Using the cross here should kill it before it even has the chance to become a threat. I've had it teleport on occasion, so be ready to distance yourself at any given moment. As for the left path, just walk over, grab the eye, and when you get to the cultist, hug the top wall. It's comically easy. Once Moloch is pleased with your sacrifice, you'll get the lantern and meet the thralls. Just hit them with the cross and back up when necessary. The last challenge before the boss requires you to purify 3 totems in a dark forest to dispel 1 final seal. Another forest? Yep, we've got a map for it. The totems are located on these 3 screens. Just follow the map and you'll be able to find them with no problems, especially since you're boxed in by stick dolls this time. The only threat in this segment is the occasional thrall that'll spawn. When you hear a thrall spawn, quickly dispose of it or move to the next screen to despawn it. Purifying a totem will also cause any thralls on screen to despawn as well, which can be handy in a pinch. Autofire keeps you safe here just like it did in Chapter 1. Just remember that thralls need to be killed and not repelled like Michael, and that it's reset upon purifying a totem. Once you've done all 3, step into the door and get ready for the penultimate fight.
Are we done chatting? I think you have stood in my way long enough. Time for you to finally kneel before the power of the unspeakable. You will make a fine sacrifice.
I'll start with a positive affirmation. You're not dying to Gary. Mr. Miller over here has some of the easiest attack patterns in the game. You've got his trident throw, the summon barrage of demons that slows you down, the skeletal figure summon, and the fan favorite, These attacks are super easy to dodge, and even if you get hit, this is one of 2 fights where you can take more than 1 blow. When hit, John will drop the cross and Gary will move to the top of the arena to rev up a charge attack. Immediately locate the cross and start moving towards it. You should be able to grab it again without Gary moving significantly. He even freezes up in shock when John gets it, which opens him up to free hits. The best piece of advice I can give you is that you can get to the battle fastest by picking dialogue options 211 in his pre-fight questionnaire. Shoutouts to the Faith Speedrunning Discord for confirming there is a fastest way through this segment. Seriously, the ball's in your court for this fight. Just give it your all and use every trick that got you here to make Gary suffer. Once Gary gets a face full of lead, you can perform 1 final time save by hopping into the hole before Father Garcia says anything. Head up to the derelict house's attic, and we've reached the home stretch of the run.
I will make you the first mortal to witness the profane Sabbath, and the first to be consumed by it. But before I do, I will let you in on a secret. Gary does not.
The final Gary fight has a lot of mechanics, most being RNG dependent, but they're far more manageable than they were with Tiffany. One thing you should know about this arena, you can actually move behind Miriam's corpse at the top. It's not a reliable escape route by any means, but it might save you in a pinch. Moving on to Gary, he, like Tiffany, has a smaller hurt box than you'd expect, so take advantage of that when you can. He'll start crawling towards you while spawning demonic seals around the room to block your movement. There can only be a maximum of 6 seals in the room at a time, and they seem to despawn at random intervals. Be aware of the seals' placements and navigate around them as best you can, keeping a backup plan in mind in case your plan A is suddenly cut off. Gary has 2 different attacks that are choreographed by how long he freezes before doing them. After 2 or so animation loops, he'll lunge quickly at John in a straight line. After 5-ish loops, he'll horizontally dash around the room 4 times with no real pattern. There's also a variant of this attack where he makes the room go dark, but you handle it in the same way. Whenever Gary freezes, assume he's going to do the lunge and react accordingly. If he doesn't lunge, get to the top or bottom wall and you'll be safe from the multi-dash. Hit him during this attack for free damage. Otherwise, dip in and out while keeping a good distance so you can react to a sudden lunge. Midway through the fight, Malphus will drop in to back Gary up. Autofire resets as Malphus spawns in. On top of Gary, you now have to juggle Malphus hogging the sidewalls and firing a spread shot of arrows every so often. Try and stick to the opposite side of the room from Malphus, adjusting for Seals and Gary. His arrow attack should be dodged in one of two ways depending on your positioning. If you're close to him, go around. If you're far away, you'll have better chances going in between the arrows since they spread out vertically as they travel. Malphus also has this jumping attack that's indicated by this sound. This will cause him to either move to the opposite side of the room, or try and land on top of you or someplace close by. Funnily enough, the latter option is more beneficial to you as it takes him longer to get back into firing position and lets you get some hits on him. You can even line him up with Gary and inflict damage to both of them if you're lucky. Stay on your toes and you should be able to get to the true final boss with little to no problems. Super Miriam looks intimidating, but this fight is a cakewalk. Here's her attack pattern. A rain of Malphas arrows with a few triangulated skulls. A single fire blast followed by a U-shaped dip into the center of the arena. Shooting 7 singular skulls which explode into 8 after some time. Moving into the center of the arena and enclosing herself in a ring of fire with a few skulls. A rain of skulls with a few Malphas arrows. A large cross of fire with some more triangulated skulls. And finally, a horizontal dash at John after going off screen. The attacks are pretty easy to dodge, and give you plenty of opportunities to damage her. I recommend focusing on dodging for all of the skull-focused attacks, damaging her anytime in between. Even if you get hit, you don't have to worry too much, mainly because you get 10 hits during this fight. That doesn't mean you should go out of your way to get hit, but it gives you some wiggle room for the harder attacks. And as you'd expect, a fight like this is a breeze if you use auto-fire. Just make sure you reset it when she spawns in initially. Once you see Miriam's corpse, light him up, and you are done. Well, there you have it. Codename Orion's declassified Good Christian Boy survival guide. And as you'd expect with something like this, your results may vary. I've outlined the general strategies that got me to the final Gary fight, but I encourage you to give the run a try and see if you can find some new strategies that might work better than mine. The Good Christian Boy challenge, despite its difficulty, was incredibly fun to dissect and attempt. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. The Faith speedrunning community acknowledges Good Christian Boy percent as an official category, and as of uploading this, 5 people have placed on the leaderboard with RTAs coming in around 90 minutes. I love seeing people take on challenges like this, and while I might not have the dexterity for it myself, I hope that my pointers lead you to gaining such a prestigious title. Even if you're not the challenge type, I hope my breakdown of Faith has sparked some interest in the game. I could gush for hours about how good the storytelling is, but it's truly one of those games you should experience for yourself. Plus, it's looking like we might see more of it in the near future. Thanks for watching, I am Codename Orion, and as always, keep it real.
Codename Orion. A gun with 1 bullet.